The iconic mono Sun Sub solar pump range was first released for sale in 1996. The Sun Sub is known as a reliable and respected solar pump within farming communities across the globe. The following video is designed to provide instruction, tips and things to look out for related to the complete disassembly and reassembly of the Sun Sub pump end, commonly referred to as a wet end. We'll also show the correct identification of worn components. Remember, safety first. Although not covered in this video, Mono regards safety as a critical factor when undertaking any service on the Mono range. To prevent injury when installing or removing the pump from the borehole, always use suitably rated lifting equipment and adequate PPE for the situation. The typical Mono submersible pump consists of the following components: a motor with a Flexi shaft adapter, a motor adapter, a Flexi shaft, a barrel, a socket, a rotor, a stator, 2 rubber stabilizers, and a non-return valve. To begin, you must check which model pump and motor you're repairing to ensure correct ordering of replacement components. The etching number on the motor adapter you see here was introduced in 2009. Prior to this, a sticker was attached to the motor with this similar detail. On the etching, there are 2 different sets of identification numbers. The first set is the pump model, which you'll need to understand for what replacement components are required. And as we show here, this pump coating will be on models manufactured from 2012. The first 2 characters, SS, identify the unit as a Sun Sub. The next 3 numbers are the pump size. Seen here, the 042 is a 42 size. The following 4 numerics are an internal mono sequence number. The next 2 letters will be either UR, indicating an unplated rotor with a nitrile stator, or PR, indicating a plated rotor with a nitrile stator. It's important to note that some codes will end with a number. Nothing in this position means it's a standard Mark 1 rotor. But a number 3 means a temperature Mark 3 rotor. And the number 5 in this position means it's a temperature Mark 5 rotor. The second set of codes is a unique serial number, which you'll need to state with any warranties or case returns. To identify which motor you have if replacement is necessary, look to the adapter end of the motor casing for an engraving starting with SUN, MOT, as seen here. To disassemble the pump body from the motor, you need to remove the 4 nuts using a 13mm ring spanner. Then also remove the spring washers. The motor with rotating parts is then gently extracted from the pump wet end. At this point, you can easily troubleshoot for a faulty motor. That is, if you have not already done so prior to the pump removal from the bore. To test, connect the motor cable to the Sun Sub fault fighting unit, and then connect it to a Mega, as seen here. The purpose of the test is to check for earth leakage. You can purchase the unit as a complete kit from Mono. This includes the Sun Sub fault finding unit, insulation tester or Mega as they're commonly referred to, GPS tracker battery charger, fluke multimeter and all required leads. Alternatively, you can purchase the fault-finding box on its own. Please note that when undertaking this test, ensure the black earth lead is plugged into the earth sockets of both the Mega and the fault-finding unit. Starting at socket A with the Mega set to the 1000 volts range, press the test button and then read the top ohm value. You're looking to return a test value equal to or greater than 20 meg ohms. Test the other 2 phases via socket B and C. If If all tests return values equal to or greater than 20 meg ohms, then the motor is not faulty. However, if you receive a reading of less than 20 meg ohms, this is considered a down-to-earth measurement, meaning the motor is now faulty and needs replacement. If the motor fails the test, you'll need to remove the motor's electrical lead. When doing so, inspect the plug and socket for any signs of damage. Mono also recommends checking the integrity of the lead by performing the same earth leakage test, just on the leads. If you're replacing it with a new motor, we recommend replacing the O-rings and the plug at minimum, and preferably the entire lead. The current rotor codes are SFSS, followed by 3 numbers depicting pump size, then the numbers 2510. Any older codes are shown here. The example rotor seen here has bad pitting corrosion from a potentially aggressive water bore. Although this may not seem like severe damage, this will in a short time significantly damage the stator, reducing the pump's efficiency. Although a PC pump can sustain pumping solids, such as sand, more efficiently and over greater periods of time compared to a centrifugal pump, they will eventually wear out and need replacing. The rotor you're looking at here is from a pump that is operated in an extreme amount of sand over a very long period. To remove the rotor from the Flexi shaft, unscrew the rotor with a 22mm spanner on the flat on the rotor and a 21mm spanner on the flat on the motor Flexi shaft adapter. Please note the Flexi shaft ends can break their thread seal on either end of the shaft. In the image you see here, it is opened on the motor end. If it's necessary to replace the rotor, then use a 6mm open-ended spanner on the flats of the Flexi shaft along with a 22mm spanner on the rotor flats to unscrew. Prior to 2009, there were no flats on the Flexi shaft ends. To remove this style Flexi shaft, we recommend using soft grips or equivalent on the threads to protect them. It's imperative that at no time you attempt to remove the Flexi shaft by gripping on the halar coating with any hand tools, as it will damage the coating, causing premature failure and will void the warranty. Next, using a pair of Stilsons, remove the foot valve from the stator, but do not use a vice grip or Stilsons on the stator housing under any circumstance. Damage to the outside of the stator tube can result in loss of performance and even a complete seizure of the pump. Using your Stilsons and a pipe strap tool, remove the stator from the barrel. A handy tip here is to use a strip of emery tape, rough side in, between the stator barrel and the strap tool to make it grip. Once you've completed these steps, you can now inspect the stator for signs of wear. If you observe or feel wear, such as shown here on this section stator, it's necessary to replace it. Please note that if it is necessary to replace the rotor, it is also recommended that the stator be replaced at the same time. Mono would recommend that all other remaining components, such as the pump barrel, socket, motor adapter and stabilizers, should be assessed at this time and replaced if any excessive corrosion or wear is evident. The following sequence is to reassemble a complete pump using either new replacement parts or reusing the old components. The first step is to tap the rubber stabilizers onto the barrel using a rubber mallet. Wipe stag sealant or any equivalent onto the thread before screwing the socket to the barrel. Also coat stag sealant on the other pipe threads. The thread on the stator where it screws into the non-return valve and where the socket screws into the stator. Be aware that equal threads should be seen on either side of the socket once it's completely screwed in. It's vital that you protect the stator tube from any potential crushing forces, such as when using vice grips or Stilsons. When fitting the stator, it's important to first look for the wording "to suction end." This needs to be oriented towards the barrel, away from the non-return valve. Our final step is to coat the flexi shaft threads with anti-seize. Insert new O-rings into the rotor head if necessary, then hand screw the shaft firmly into place. Then insert a new O-ring into the motor adapter if necessary and hand screw it into place. Using the same spanners on the rotor and motor adapter, tighten the threads firmly. However, take care as you tighten the rotor and adapter against the flexi shaft, as over-tightening can lead to twisting the flexi shaft out of shape, thereby rendering it unusable. Our next step is to insert the motor plug if it was removed. The motor plug must be replaced with a new O-ring and a light coating of a silicon-based grease. Now, wet the rotor and stator and carefully insert the rotor through the motor adapter and barrel. Please avoid using any oil-based lubricant for this process, as doing so can degrade the rubber of the stator, causing early failure. Take care when inserting the assembly through the barrel to avoid any damage to the halar coating or the rotor. The final step is to assemble the 4 spring washers and nuts that hold the motor to the pump. Tighten the 2 nuts opposite each other first to ensure correct alignment.